Hello, everyone. Welcome back to week 3 here, Automation Anywhere's Document Automation Training Camp. I'm joined here by Aaron and Ollie. I'm Matt Stewart. Aaron will once again be taking all of your questions from LinkedIn and YouTube or wherever you're streaming. Reminder, if you are having streaming problems on LinkedIn, we are streaming this live over on YouTube as well. We've heard it's a lot more stable. Happy Halloween, happy Diwali. I'm wearing the scariest shirt that I could find for an automation team to look at. I think we've got Thor at the bottom, dressed in flannel, and Dr. Aaron. Welcome, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. So we had a very, very big week. You covered a lot of information that, after week 1 and 2, you probably thought, okay, we did classification, we did extraction, and surprise, week 3 is all about maximizing what you got out of weeks 1 and 2. This stuff is really, really important, and I want to take some time real quick just to make sure I emphasize just how important they are. So you guys focused on, let's talk about data validation first. If you think about the overall end-to-end process of a document workflow, getting information out of a document, cool, you've done it. But how do you know that it's correct, right? There's always that question of accuracy and what metrics you have. But what about when you send it to a human to do their work? Well, they've got to go through and they've got to make decisions. Some of those decisions aren't requiring to look at the document. If you're expecting to get a date and you get a name out, that's wrong. You don't need a human to do that. You don't need anyone that even knows what that document is. There are some really simple rules that could be done. Similarly, forget about having extraction do the work in and of itself. What if you were just doing this using really old-fashioned pen and paper processing? Somebody sends or fax you in a document, and you've got a human keying that into whatever system that you have. That system is going to be building rules as well, right? That system, those rules, even though it wasn't coming from an upstream automation source like Automation Anywhere, those rules could be in place. An antique mainframe system expecting a date, if it gets a name, it's going to break, right? You didn't have to send that to a human. Those types of rules are the same types of rules that you'd have to focus on here. Then we also looked at data enrichment. So validation is stuff that is inherent within the document and the data that you're looking at. A date is a different structure. A string is coming out as a number, and maybe you would need it to be in a string. But what if there's information somewhere else in your organization that could make it more understandable? For example, a date in the future, data validation rule, couldn't have happened. But what about a date before your company was ever founded, or a date that doesn't exist anywhere in your systems of record, or an invoice number that you can't go find within the system? All of that stuff is information that's still similar to the validation rules, but it requires that external data source. And these are really, really helpful tricks, not just for the perspective of enhancing accuracy, but to make these things go from end to end without having to have human intervention. If you're able to reach out and populate 5 fields of data that may have been lower confidence because you got the really important one, like the invoice number, and you can double check, that's super great. We also looked at table extraction, which this is the first time I watched this video this week. Sorry, it might sound like I should have known about this one, but I've had table extraction problems with DocAI for years. In all the previous companies, tables and semi-structured data are the absolute bane of document automation. Think about what we talked about last week with our data science developer from Automation Anywhere, Sid. We talked about the history of automation techniques. You've got zonal technologies that you draw like a bounding box on a screen and say, get the data from there. Well, that won't work on a table because tables can be longer or shorter depending on how often or how many items come in on that document. You also run into the problem of like if you were to try to draw a vertical line down that column and say, well, this is all of the stuff for this column type and this is all the stuff. Well, you don't know how long to draw the line, and you can't just have it go forever because there might be data after the table, right? Or another table like we had in the example from this week. So you can't just draw forever vertical lines. And even if you knew it was only going to be a table on a document, what happens if one of the columns is blank? So now suddenly you're not able to line them up. It's a complete mess. The other big technology type are language types. You've heard of language models, large language models. Document automation machine learning models are generally built on foundation models that use the understanding of language and how it's related. Well, they don't know what a table is. They're not looking at what's on the page. So the words on the page, the numbers on the page don't mean anything to them. They can't make sense across horizontals. So the fact that we had a tool here that actually incorporates table recognition and says, oh, here's a header, here's what it means, and allows you to do it in the exact same learning instance you're doing other things, I was very happy to see that.
Yes.
And so outside of semi-structured and unstructured, which I think we've shown pretty well, we had requests for standard forms over the first 2 weeks. Standard forms and optical mark recognition. Those things are really, really, really important for processing of documents that have information in them that isn't just the text. It's just the checkbox or the or a circle. In the United States, it is election week next week. They're going to be using potentially optical mark recognition to identify where on a page something has been identified. That's very common for tax documents, and you don't want to have it accent or show an X, right? Just I've retrieved an X. That's not helpful. Retrieving and understanding that X means, yeah, they're retired or they're married. Those are really important things to be able to pull out of a document. So all of these things are to help with extraction, and spending that amount of time on extraction, really 2 weeks worth of extraction and maximizing what you can get, I thought was fantastic week. Ollie also put together a video on throughput. There were a lot of questions in week 1. We did anticipate these coming in on how to process documents, how to get them through as fast as possible. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely.
That throughput video on being able to calculate how many bot runners I'll need, how to maximize device pools, that is a really great video. And while he presented it under the context of document automation, there's a lot of good material in there that if you're just trying to put automations through and having them utilize things effectively, all that math you did for pages and documents, just think about it, how many work items you have, and do that exact same kind of thing. It's a really great video. So Ollie, you did a couple of the videos this week. Aaron, you did a couple. I did none this week. What were your biggest moments? I shared mine. That my table. When I saw the table video, I was like, this is actually really neat. Didn't know we had this. When you guys were doing these week's videos, what aha moments did you have, Doctor?
Well, call me Doc Automation, right? The advanced training of the tables, I think, is just such a huge improvement upon what we could do with those tables. And I chose a relatively difficult example for the video, in that we had duplicate column headings for those 2 different tables. Is that unusual? Maybe, maybe not. But this was a good way of showing us, hey, we need help beyond aliases and tweaking that generative AI prompt. And one of the ways of doing that was to use that advanced training. And that was just super effective.
I really I liked that part. I'd like to get in there myself and start tinkering. I'm remembering document types from previous jobs where we just gave up on the table part. We were like, well, we've got all the raw data out. We're just going to have to Python it because the tools that we had could not make sense of anything, right?
Yeah, and even using things like string parsing and
Yeah.
that to try to extract that information out of tables, such high difficulty and a very, very high chance of making mistakes.
Yeah.
With that too. This is just a game changer.
It really
I think what really confused me, but the first ever automation I ever built, I think I went on the New York Stock Exchange and just pulled a table of data and then put it in Excel and analyzed it. And it was like, if it's in a table, great, automation loves it. Then you get to document automation and it's a completely different ball game. It's like a table in a document, nightmare. Forget about it. Truly spooky.
Yep. There are some document types I've seen out there. I don't know if we've tinkered with them yet. We looked at some difficult documents this week. The fact you had two tables in the same document that shared a column header, and we were able to fix that in, was that a 10-minute video with no edits? You just went right through that. Yeah, that was really great. There are documents that have things like nested tables, where within the cell of a table is a table. I'd love to see if we could tackle that, because I think we've broken most tools that I've tried to do that with. There's actually a question in here about creating fields that I think we could pop open. There's text, number, date, and address. How is the text data type different from address? Either of you tinkered with it? I think I know what it is, but I have not touched that field. Generally, when address is listed, they look for number and then a string and then an apartment code or like a region code. It's a fixed format that applies universally. I'm assuming that is what we've done, some regex style pattern for that type. But I could not confirm. If either one of you, while we're on the call, want to go see what that type does, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that.
Ollie, for any of your videos, what fun things did you go aha about?
Probably the biggest aha was on Monday morning, when we realized there'd been so many people creating standard forms models. It was, we need to increase the amount of compute that we've allocated to the control room. That was one aha moment. I think as you made the great point about OMR and optical mark recognition, and just how in the W2 forms that everyone had the chance to play with as part of the standard forms video, just being able to detect that alongside text, alongside tables, and then train a model on a minimum of 5 documents for it to then pretty much after that go off and forever extract data was amazing. So I think perhaps for a lot of you, I suspect that might have been a little known feature that we have in document automation. So we were really keen to pull that out and share it with you, because for me, that was definitely I didn't know we could do that.
Yeah, and you know what? Now that I think about it, we had week 1, right? Week 1 wrapped up. We had the Thursday call, and we had people asking about fixed form, standard form, certain things like that, and a couple of questions about OMR. And I think the following week, we all debriefed on how it went, and I made the recommendation, let's see if we could get something done. So that was, what, 9 days ago that we decided, hey, maybe we should put that video together. And you were able to not only put that video together, get it published, get the licenses done, and put it out there. And it's not like we sacrificed on quality. It's a great video. So
it really was.
The integration and everything, I think it just goes to show, like, if you want to be doing something, the information's out there, and it's actually pretty quick to turn around. Because just to be clear, he went from not knowing, we all went from not knowing that this existed in this fashion to having a published video that actually covers it meaningfully well, to the point where, like he mentioned, a lot of people were able to get in there, and we had to increase our compute. So that's great work, Ollie, on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we actually have a customer special guest this week who has gone through using document automation at their organization, and they did so prior to these videos. So they were able to get all this figured out without our help. But I wanted to invite Khalid Mustafa here and bring him up on screen and talk through what his use case is and what he's been doing with it. Hey, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself before we start riddling you with questions?
Yes, sure. Hey, Matt. This is Khalid Mustafa, Intelligent Automation Service Delivery Manager from Magnus. I'm based in Dubai, and we are a partner of Automation Anywhere.
Awesome. So by partner, that means you are an approved vendor that we use to help do professional services or build for clients. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. Verified service provider.
Awesome. So I have your slides up here and ready to go. Let's bring those slides up. Supplier invoice processing, the process that you have built. All right, great. So why don't you talk us through this process?
Yes, this process is supplier invoice processing. We have a problem that we want to automate. The problem is that we are getting invoices from many vendors, let's say more than 100 vendors, okay? and we need to do three-way matching between the delivery note and the PO and the invoice that we have received from the vendor to make sure that it is valid and the data is correct and it is reflecting what we have in the PO in terms of items, description, and quantity and price as well. Getting a large number of invoices, we were getting around 40K invoices in a year, okay, and we wanted to automate that. It is, of course, a time-consuming process and error-prone, and it was taking days and weeks for the team to review these invoices, okay, and get it validated, and so we can pay to our vendors.
It's about 110 a day on average if you go with the full year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
how did you
so-
guys? Sorry, after you, Matt. Go on.
I was going to just point out, so if you look at his problem statement, they have a manual process of looking at a collection of 100 different vendor provided invoices. So document variation. Sid last week talked about making that, getting a sense of what all of your documents look like so that you could make sure that your learning instance was working. He's talking about matching it up to invoices and information from notes. We just talked about doing data validation rules and also doing data, tracking down data from your organization to enhance those. He has all of that information available to do that in here. And while he didn't use those exact words, those are the practices that he would have probably followed. But I'm probably getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. I saw the opportunity to jump in. Ali, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I used to work as an accountant, and the bane of our lives was having to do three-way matches or three-way verifications. And you'd be unsurprised to know that a lot of organizations perhaps didn't do that, or they let it slide. And then you have a potential compliance and audit nightmare. So when you do this and you enable this in your organization, it's unbelievable what it will do to the confidence in the CFO or your FD, knowing that you've got that level of checks taking place, and just increasing the amount of confidence they have with every invoice they receive. So it's a huge thing to undertake. So yeah, fantastic.
Could you talk a little bit about that impact down there? I see 90% accuracy, $192,000 in cost savings. You talk about what that impact meant to you and the partner that you worked with?
Yeah, especially the problem, it is time consuming that we have. It's taking around 15 minutes to review one invoice and do the three-way matching, okay, with all the items, because these invoices is not having just one or two items, okay. Sometimes it goes up to 10 items, and you need to verify one by one, and the benefit and the impact we gained for this customer is 90% accuracy, okay, and the other 10% is about matching some items, okay. It was very hard to match because we don't have the same SKU, and we rely on the description or the SKU to match it with the invoice, BO, and the delivery note. And by automating this process, we have saved around 192K annually for our customer, and we give them a full auditability on the work and supplier invoice processing.
Awesome. And so just to be clear, when you talk about 90% accuracy, that's not saying 10% of these invoices are being misprocessed. It means 10% of them are going to your exception handling prior to being processed, right?
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to clear that up to everyone. We're not advocating only, get some right, get some wrong, nothing like that. It's a matter of how much you're able to get right before you have to rely on a human to do work. So it's reducing the labor cost by 90%.
Yeah, we could say 90% fully automated.
Right. There you go. It's a good way of putting it. Mm-hmm. So you had you shared this slide with us. I'll let you talk through it.
Okay, so to speak more in details about the problem that we are getting more than 100 different vendors, okay, and we need to see how many vendors are contributing to this big number of invoices, the 40K invoices per year. And we found out that there are just 25 are the top one, okay, contributing to this amount of invoices. So we picked up these vendors, okay, and we got their invoices the way they are sending. We had to do some manual work to do the correct classification, because we were getting some of them are sharing an invoices, okay, just an invoice, tax invoice, and some of them are sharing a performer invoice, which will not be validated against a PO. After doing the manual classification ourselves, we did create the learning instance for that, okay, and I'm sorry, I'm speaking more about the solution here.
All good.
Yeah. We did the learning instance on document automation for the invoices, for delivery notes, and for the BOs. And we were extracting from different types of documents. And post the extraction, we had to do some validation on that, okay, where to involve the human to do a validation for these unmatched SKUs or items. And after that, after we find all the matches, we are sharing the invoice and the result with the business or the team who is handling this invoice in the organization, so they can validate it and approve it. Once it is approved, it will be posted into the system, and from there, they can pay to the vendor directly.
Yeah, and so you have Automation Anywhere hooked into document ingestion, and then once it's done with all of the potential extraction, data matching, human approval, it's hooked into the downstream part of it as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. So it's a great example of an end-to-end process, which will be next week. Everyone will get to see an example of an end-to-end process next week. But I wanted to jump back in on one thing that you said, something I wanted to overemphasize last week with Sid. You mentioned that you had a lot of variation in documents from invoices, and you did an analysis to figure out how many people, how many vendors were sending documents overall, how many vendors were taking up the bulk of your documents. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason for that was part of document automation best practices is that if you make your data set representative, your learning instance data set representative of what you expect in the real world in production, you will get better results. And so you did that exercise to make sure that your learning instance was created as optimally as possible. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is accurate. And the reason we did this, it is because of the previous experience we had. We started just with document automation right away without doing an analysis. And after that, we found out that it does not work well. And we had to do our due diligence first, and then get these data into classification, document automation, validation, human in the loop, and etc.
That's great. So you have marked here a couple of pain points. These were pain points in the original process. That's right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any aside from the one that you just mentioned where you tried to jump right into solving the doc automation problem, were there any other pain points that you ran into on the solving of the problem?
Yeah, one of the pain point that we got is some of the invoices are multiple pages, okay, which you guys spoke about minutes ago, and some of the BOs as well. So for the BOs, for the invoices, it was totally fine, okay, and we have solved that with document automation. And for the BO, we skipped that because the BO is originally generated from the customer. So they have it on their system, and we could just take the BO number from the invoice, log into the system, and get the BO information from there.
There you go. So I moved this over to the slide where you start to talk about the solution, since I feel like half our questions were going in each direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ollie, I think you had messaged me. You had a couple of questions for him that you wanted to jump in. I've been rudely cutting you off, so go ahead.
No, not at all. It's fine. Yeah, I had a question around. I think perhaps for a lot of our listeners today, they'll be thinking about how they can take the knowledge they've learned from the document automation training camp and apply it to to their business. How did you identify this as an opportunity? And if you could just sort of talk us through that, and I think that would be great for us all to think, we can take that knowledge and apply it into our own business too.
Yeah, ideally, this process was identified by the customer itself. Okay, we provide professional services for them, but I can speak more about them and how they identify this. Usually, when we start process discovery in any organization, we start with um, the departments and the function in the organization. So we start by a finance, HR, IT, and when it comes to finance, it is always documents. Okay, so we this is a big company and they purchase a lot of items throughout the year. So this was our first start with them to get this process identified.
Did they
Awesome.
bring you the business case immediately, or did they just identify the solution? Like, did they say they knew this would be worth a certain amount of dollars, or did you do that as part of your work with them?
We did our due diligence to calculate the ROI for them. Okay, so they can purchase the document automation part for of the platform, and we can kick off the project with them. So we did our analysis to generate the return of investment report for them, so they can see how much benefit they will gain after automating this process.
So that's great. So they came to you saying, we have a technical problem and we think we could use your help. You went, looked at what Automation Anywhere could do for them with document automation, put together the business case. They agreed to it, and then you were able to build it, and they were able to purchase Automation Anywhere and realize what they were looking for.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah, amazing. I should say as well, for anyone listening, this is just a potentially great use case that you could also use in your business or with your customers. And it might be that sort of two-way match between invoice and purchase orders could be done, but a three-way match will almost never be done. And I think that's where connecting Automation Anywhere, document automation together is such a value add process. So yeah, this is almost like the proof of, well, I attended a webinar where they talked us through the detail of how you do this three-way match with document automation. So yeah, it's amazing to hear this.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is great. Ollie, did you have any other questions?
Actually, I did. I want to just, if you could talk us through a little bit more the technology components in this, because you've got an approval workflow, which I think is highly interesting, but perhaps we could focus on that, but you could also just talk us through how, from a technology perspective, you solve the three-way verification.
Yeah, we have used mainly document automation, okay, and we have used automation copilot, okay, throughout the approval request to the employees, and we have also used the traditional RPA taskbot to automate posting these invoices to the system.
And then
Yeah,
how much are you using Process Composer for orchestrating everything?
Sorry, come again?
Are you using Process Composer for orchestrating the learning instance calling, the data extraction and calling taskbots and doing the reviews, or are you using something else? Okay.
It is all done by Process Composer. So the main item in the process is the Process Composer, okay, and we have subbots and forms as well.
That's great. Well, next week during our end-to-end video, we will be heavily advocating for a process-first mindset when designing document automation solutions. So it's great to hear that a success story out there has already taken that approach.
And to be honest, Process Composer is much easier, okay, and straightforward, where you can just plug things and connect it together.
Yeah, it is, and there will be learning trails and courses on that in the future for how flexible it makes designs, I'm glad that we've just got another advocate for it, but it really is a simpler way of scaling up your automations over time. All right, so does anyone in the audience have any questions? He'll be hanging around until the end of the session, but if anyone's got questions we can ask now, we'll let him answer them before we move on to our community shoutouts.
I have a question. Can I ask
Go
you?
for it. Go for it.
Yeah.
Is it for us or are you self-reflecting?
Yeah. How do you do manual classification? Like, okay, I have a process where I do my classification, okay, and I got the result, but I'm not confident with this result, so I need to verify it by human. So how do you do it?
Not to steal any of what is coming next week during our end-to-end build, but there is part of the classifier's output is that it provides you not just the prediction, but it also provides you a confidence score for its prediction. And so just like you would do in your learning instance where you can route to a human if anything needs validation, we create a manual an if-else check. If the confidence score of the prediction is lower than whatever threshold you have set as a business, you will have it route to a human where they will see the document, have the ability to select from all of the document classes that come into your process, as well as not part of my process. That happens. Thank you. It very often happens that a document can enter into a process that doesn't belong there, especially if you're monitoring a mailbox or things like that can get tied up. Being able to discard that document, once they've made that selection is now the ground truth. It replaces what the original prediction was from the classification model and passes it back to your parent process. Everything I just described, I think I said verbatim in a video that you'll be seeing next week.
Awesome.
I just want to add to that as well. This is where I love Process Composer, because if you do need to have that manual validation in place, obviously that's just a potential action or task you can drag into Process Composer. But the way you can notify people, i.e. maybe we're going to ping people on Teams that they've got a validation step waiting for them. That could just be a bot that you drag into the Process Composer, or you want to swap it out and maybe it's an email to a specific team. All of this is just so easy with Process Composer. Once you've got your logic on that canvas, what you do with it next is relatively easy, but so powerful.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Halit, thank you. We're gonna let you hang around. We're gonna drop off, and we're gonna bring Lou up, and she'll do some community shout-outs, and we'll get through the community section. And if any questions pop up for you, we'll get to them in a bit. Sure. When we get to our Q&A section.
Happy automation.
Thank you. Welcome, Lou.
Hey, Matt. Thanks. How's it going?
Good.
Could we bring up the community shout-out slide?
Awesome. Thank you.
Amazing.
Can you see them, Lou?
Yeah, I got it.
Good.
So welcome to the week 3 community shout-out portion of the event. As you've heard Matt say 3 times now, I'm Lou, and I am loving all the comments we're getting both in our Pathfinder community and on social media. It's exciting because what you're learning and how you plan to utilize the skills helps others in their document automation journey. So just know that your comments and feedback are being read, heard, and viewed as an extension of the learning journey in our team. So we thank you, and we're super, super excited to see all of this come through. With that, I think we can dive right in. So first we have Mohammed Saqib, who said, with each module, I'm gaining valuable insight that will enhance my approach to automation and help drive efficiency in document automation processes. I'm excited to see where these newly acquired skills will take me on this automation journey. Next up is Chandu Mohammed, who gave his recommendations around the training and why he views it as valuable. He said, I highly recommend this training for teams planning to migrate IQBot to DA or kickstart their DA use cases. Document automation offers powerful features like document rules for multi-field verification tailored to business needs. For anyone interested, check out the documentation on formula validation as covered in Applying Rules to Learning Instances tutorial. He also called out a standout feature, which was the advanced training setting. He said it was a game changer for extracting complex or multi-table data by mapping a primary column and using an end of table indicator. Document automation handles data with impressive accuracy and flexibility. Another great recommendation comes from Aditi Indoraya, who called us out both in our Pathfinder community and on LinkedIn. Thank you for that. Aditi said, I'm excited to share that I've completed week 3 of the document automation training camp with Automation Anywhere. This week, I focused on using standard forms to create custom models, working with field and validation rules, data manipulation and enrichment, data validation, advanced training, and maximizing throughput. And then on LinkedIn said, it's been an amazing learning experience so far, and I'm eager to keep growing in the coming weeks. Thank you so much for the double shout out. We appreciate it and are glad that you're enjoying the experience so far. Switching gears just a bit, we've started asking thought-provoking questions around the training in our community. We're calling it our swag discussion series. So the responses have been great and are truly valued by all of our members in each phase of their automation journey. So one of the prompts was, what is one question you had before starting the document automation training camp? And Pathfinder community member Vatsy said, the questions I had before starting were, 1, how is document automation different than IQBot? And the answer there is that document automation uses Gen AI along with the OCR engines to extract data from unstructured documents. And question 2, how user-friendly the document automation would be. And he said it's very easy to understand and user-friendly as it is a process and not just a task bot. So thank you so much for sharing that, as I'm sure others had the same questions as well. And I hope they came to the same conclusion as you did.
Look, I love the fact that so many of these aha moments from the community happen to be things Ali and myself have said in this, in this meeting. That's so great.
Yeah, everyone is definitely on the same page, which is super exciting to see. We do have one more. So Dave Drowtech said, generative AI is transforming document automation by enabling accurate data extraction from unstructured documents, a challenge I often face as an RPA developer. In this course, I'm learning how to use and customize prompts to fit specific needs, like distinguishing between a property address and mailing address and lease documents. Mastering these techniques has been a major aha moment, as it significantly reduces errors and saves both time and resources. Of course, I stumble upon significant errors. These skills boost the accuracy and efficiency of automations. Thank you so much for sharing that. We really do love a good aha moment and can't wait to hear more about everyone's experience. So with that, we can go ahead and switch to our newest swag winners. So as a reminder to everyone here, adding commentary to our weekly swag discussion series questions, which were the 2 responses that I just read, enters you into a drawing for some awesome Pathfinder swag. So head over to the university forum and take part. Again, it helps us, it helps our community members. It really is it's a win-win-win situation. So head on over, give us some responses to those and win some swag. For this week, our winners are Mark M. and Devendra S. Congratulations to you both, and thank you for being a valuable piece of our community, and we look forward to hearing more from you and everyone in the Pathfinder world.
Awesome. Lou, do you have any other call outs? Have you been doing any of this Doc Auto stuff? I know you've been swarmed with all of these things and you wanted to get in. Have you gotten the opportunity to play yet?
I have been playing on last year's bot automation training.
Oh, you're ramping up skills to get ready for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, if any of you can imagine reading these comments, I I know probably every other sentence I'm understanding. Other than that, I'm hoping that it's correct, because I'm not a document automation person yet, but I'll get there.
Great. Yeah, we'll ask you in a couple weeks what your aha moments have been when you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Not on camera though, please.
All right, so we have quite a few questions that we've starred for Q&A. Why don't we start going through those? I did see one come in that made me smile and laugh, and I want to get to that one first. Where was the training card one? Yes. So, Doug, I've done this myself already. My aunt bought a house a few years ago, and it was left as is, and all of the belongings of the previous owners, or some of them, were just left. And in one of the boxes was about 5,000 to 6,000 Magic the Gathering cards. And hoping that I had found a gold mine, I put together a doc auto formula. Wasn't an automation anywhere, but there's zero reason that it can't be. It was using zonal things to get the name, and then call a script to hit the Magic the Gathering API website to get back the price quote. You could build that exact thing in here, pre-processing to wipe out all the color and imaging to be able to get the text. It's a predictable location every time. You do the extraction, have a bot, use a REST call that API, get it back, write it to an Excel file. You will have fun doing this. I had a lot of fun doing it myself.
This feels like a bot games challenge that's waiting to be built, actually. So
it does, yeah. So next to Imagine, everyone has to bring their trading cards with them, and whoever has the highest total is the winner. Right. All right. So let's get to some of the other questions. We can just go from first star to most recent. That is a great question.
yeah,
I
very
don't
good question.
know. Ollie, do you happen to know the answer to that one?
Yes. So 50 megabytes if you're using one of our sort of pre-built instances. If you're potentially using Google's Doc AI model, I think that drops to about 20. So yeah, you're looking at about 50 megabytes.
And
so
that's,
you may need
because the OCR involved, that execution has a max size. Okay.
Yeah. So as part of your pre-processing step, you may need to just check the file size and then take appropriate action. But
and
yeah,
you
that's the
said
limit.
50 megabytes, 50.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
quite large. The previous
Pretty
tool that I
huge.
used was 25 megabytes, and we were sending through documents that were 100 to 150 pages before and not running into issues. So 50 megabytes is a pretty gracious allocation.
Yeah.
All right, next question. That is another great question. I'm also wondering, can you use aliases against table cells and table lines? Aaron, you tinkered with the advanced table training. Do you happen to know what is capable there?
That's going to be really, really tricky and would probably take a lot of exploration on how to do that. You might even have to treat each cell as a unique table, and that could take a lot of training.
Yeah.
And overall, I would say yes, it's probably doable, but it's going to take a lot of effort.
I think I mentioned this last week. When I'd worked at extracting financial information from like end of year reports, and that will typically come in. If you've seen like a balance sheet, it will come very tabulated. Putting that through as an unstructured document and using Gen AI prompts to do that worked pretty well. Once everything had been gone through the OCR engine, the OpenAI that I was using at the time just didn't see it as a table and would just look at it as key value pairs and was able to interpret it. So depending on what you're looking to do, Stefan, potentially try the unstructured document type and have a look there.
Are you referring to if we were to say a specific field that we're extracting is supposed to be text and it's alphanumeric, and because there's more numbers on the page, it might not pull it out correctly because it's anticipating text? Is that where you're going with? I'm realizing you can't speak back to me now, so just go ahead, put that in the chat. if that is the case, I believe that the data type that you're labeling it at does not influence the way it extracts it. It's just the way it's placing that data. And my reason for believing that is if it extracts a piece of information that is, let's say, a number or a piece of text, and it's supposed to go into a number, that's an automatic validation thing. It's not matching what I expected it to be. Aaron or
Right.
Ollie, does that match your experience?
Yeah, and the other thing that you can do is if you're expecting numeric data, you can tweak your generative AI prompt to say exclude any alphanumeric data that you have there, or only return the numbers. And that was actually in one of the videos where I said only return the unformatted number for the lease example, because I didn't want the $sign in there. I didn't want the decimals. I didn't want all of that other stuff in there mucking about. I just want the whole number and nothing else. But that does not have a direct influence on what data type that we set for that field. If I still said, give me that lease amount and numeric only, and I put that into a text field, we're still good. In fact, the default of text is really the safest one, because it's going to be able to handle alphanumeric information. It's going to be able to, handle addresses and numerics. So, when in doubt, leave it at text.
Yeah. Thank you, Doctor. Could we bring up the slides real quick? There was just, while we're doing Q&A, I wanted to make sure everyone got to see this. Similar to what we're doing here for document automation, we'll be doing a Pathfinder summit on these days. Scan, register, get some more information. Just wanted to leave this up here while we are doing Q&A. This will be another really valuable session that covers more broad topics besides just document automation. Automation in general, how to run your program effectively, how to design bots effectively, etc. We are also looking for speakers on this point. Lou will be able to speak to this once we get done Q&A. But for now, let's get back into Q&A. During the training, we upload documents through Process Link. However, what is the method for uploading documents and learning instance from the bot in real time? You will see that next week in the end-to-end build. You'll actually see how we incorporate a process as a sub-process of a larger process, and how that process can be called by automation, can be injected manually from a form, or can be called from a task bot. So you'll see all of the different ways that you can design that. For this week, it's on the actual execution of the process itself.
Love that you guys are thinking that far ahead and are predicting next week's content. So
yeah,
great sign.
Wonderful. Yeah. All right.
Yes. Thanks, Kate.
And I think we have some aha moments.
Yeah, Brian, you've got an aha moment out there. The amount of power and use case opportunities in my mind has been on overload, especially when I get to speak to customers who are in the midst of doing this training along with me. Yeah, that's actually a really good point, Brian. I met with some customers 2 weeks ago, and they were talking about document automation, and they were not aware that we were doing this training camp. And they were asking some questions about what the training camp would cover. And it almost felt like they were asking in order of the weeks we were covering. They were like, well, we've got like a whole bunch of documents that come in. How would we know which ones to start working on? I'm like, that's week 1. Great. And, I think their eyes lit up, and I think that they're attending or at least participating. But it was really interesting that hearing them ask specific questions and knowing we built content specifically to answer them was really great.
Yeah, good question from Douglas. For how long in the future will the weekly training videos be available? And Kate, answer this in the chat as well. So the courses will continue to be available through the university, but access to the Automation Anywhere that we provide through the control room, that'll continue for a few more weeks after the end of the training camp.
The aha moment for me was how we can add our own validations and customizations in the extraction bot under the process. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You'll actually get to tinker with a little bit more of that next week as well. But it is, it's very, very good. The learning instance that you create and any modifications that you make to it to make it as accurate as you want will be leverageable from anything that calls that process. which means you can build your perfect invoice processing model or your perfect, Pokemon card extraction model. And any automation that you build can call it and leverage all the things that you've built within that task bot.
All right, we've got 2 more aha moments.
My aha moment was realizing how much foundational knowledge I was missing around IDP. This series is a must for people, no matter where they are in their automation journey, whether they are business analysts or developers. This has been an amazing experience. I'm looking forward to next week and beyond. Yeah, that's a great point. Like when we talk about foundational knowledge, there's a lot of information on how to do something in Automation Anywhere or how to do something in insert doc program out there. But understanding the whys to do it and why it's important, that's the thing that a lot of people often skip. They're going right to the tutorials and forgetting how all these pieces are going to fit together. And really, once you know how those pieces fit together, no matter what enhancements we roll out in the future, whatever changes come to the product, you're going to be able to say, oh, I know why they did this, and this is what it's going to allow me to do in the future.
In my medical opinion, this last one is a great closer for this stream.
From the day I started this training, every course I learned is an aha moment. That's great. Thank you. All right, could we bring back up the slides and pull Lou back in here, and she can talk through what we're looking for speakers for Pathfinder Summit.
Yeah. So just a quick plug. Can we go back to the page before this? So Automation Anywhere Pathfinder Summit. That is coming up January 21st through the 23rd. Scan that QR code, save the date. It is a virtual conference for automation leaders, developers, business analysts, and really anyone helping to drive their org's automation journey. So whether you're looking to upskill your teams, network, develop, create some winning roadmaps, or simply just looking for some inspiration, you will definitely find it at this event. No matter what path you're on, we have something for you. So again, please scan that QR code, save the date, and we can't wait to see you there. Next page. In that same vein, we are looking for speakers. That is a chance for you to share your expertise with a global audience of automation professionals. We really want our community members to shine on our virtual stage. So we've created 4 session types listed here to offer a myriad of opportunities based on where you're at and where you feel you excel. So the 4 options are a 30-minute community spark session. This will allow you to share an automation use case that solved a real business problem. The next one is automation in action session, 45-minute session, showcasing your technical expertise in building an automation. We have a Pathfinder session, so that's 60 minutes. That will allow you to share best practices for scaling an enterprise automation program. And then finally, a networking session that will give you 45 minutes peer-to-peer, where you'll dive into engaging, thought-provoking dialogue with like-minded peers. It'll be a fun time. You'll meet people, you'll chat, you'll leave with some inspiration, questions answered. So choose one of those. If they sound like they'd be a good fit, the QR code there in the corner, scan it, apply. It'll give you the opportunity to position yourself as an automation thought leader and get amplified across our social channels. Not to mention, you'll get some cool badges in the community and some swag packs for participating. So yeah, can't wait.
Speaking of community speakers, Khalid, thank you again for joining. It's really nice of you to share document automation flow that you built prior to having a document automation training camp to teach you how to do it. And it looks like you followed what we're advocating for. So well done.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity.
All right. If there are any final questions, we can take them. If not, let's see. Are there any popping in here? Does not look like any more are coming in. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We'll see you again next week for week 4. Happy Halloween and happy Diwali.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.